Welcome to the Customer Wins podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of the Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Some of our past guests have included Cody Foster of Advisors Excel and Jeff Moore of Valmark Financial Group. Today, I get to speak with Valarie Vest, Chief Experience Officer with Cambridge Investment Research. And today's episode is brought to you by Quick, the leader in enterprise forms processing. When your business relies upon processing forms, don't waste your team's valuable time reviewing the forms. Instead, get Quick. Using our Form Extract API, simply submit your completed forms and get back clean, context-rich data that is 99.9% accurate. Visit quickforms.com to get started. Now, before I introduce today's guest, I want to give a big thank you to Chip Kispert of Beacon Strategies for introducing me to Valarie at a recent roundtable. Go check out Beacon's website at beaconstrategiesllc.com to find out when the next roundtables are going to start. Now, I'm really excited to talk with today's guest, Valarie Vest. She is the Senior Vice President and Chief Experience Officer for Cambridge Investment Research and has over 20 years of experience in the financial services industry. In her role, she works with teams across the firm to further align and drive key business strategies and outcomes designed to deliver world-class financial professional and associate experiences. She also works directly with financial professionals and associates, as well as Cambridge's executive and leadership teams, to facilitate ongoing journey mapping, consumer and associate research, and other feedback methods. Valarie earned her bachelor's degree in economics from University of Washington and holds the FINRA Series 7, 24, and 66 licenses. Val, welcome to the Customer Wins.
Well, thank you, Rich. I am super excited to be here. And I just have to give a shout out when I hear my alma mater mentioned. Go Dogs. They're in the top 4.
That's awesome. Now, I'm the worst person to comment on that because I know nothing about sports. So if you haven't heard this podcast before, I talk with business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they built and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges to growing their own company. Val, I want to understand your role a little bit better. How do you help people?
Yeah, how do I help people? Well, I'd say personally, that's just part of who and what I hope to do personally and professionally. But, I've spent my entire professional career being client facing and being out and about with people. So I'm always thinking about and have spent a lot of time thinking about, how do I create value? To your point, how do I help people? How do I serve people? Whether that is the end client or my team. And what does that mean? And it's interesting, when I first got into this business over 20 years ago, there really wasn't a name for customer experience or CX I suppose it probably, if you look back in history, it existed, but it didn't exist the way it does today.
Right.
We actually have a title with that, which is kind of cool. But I really feel like I've been looking to serve people and help people. And you do that by understanding them, by understanding what they need, and then working to take action and deliver on that.
Yeah. So let's give some more context to our listeners. I know Cambridge Investment Research because they were one of our very, very first customers back in 2003 when they were about 300 advisors. And here we are today still working together, which I'm super proud of. But give everybody an understanding, what does Cambridge Investment Research do and how is it helping its people?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cambridge Investment Research, we are a financial solutions organization. And so what that means is we help financial advisors help their clients. So anyone who works with a financial advisor, if your financial advisor is with Cambridge, we're helping support them. So we're helping support them with technology and with investment solutions and with service so that they can both best meet their clients' needs.
And your company, like I said, I've known you guys a long time, but you're over 3,800 financial professionals today, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we're over 3,800 financial professionals. Some of the numbers, we have over 150 billion in assets under advisement. So we're, I would say, Unique in that we are still internally controlled as well in our industry. And so what does that mean for people? I've worked at different companies over my career, but we still very much based on how we're organized, make decisions every single day in the best interest of our financial advisors, as well as, obviously what serves their customers. And we have this, I always say, this space to make those decisions. So we're not trying to hit an earnings call or have, an outside investor that we have to answer to. We answer to our financial advisors.
Well, and I think that's demonstrated because you guys have won Broker Dealer of the Year countless times, I believe.
Right, right. The other thing that is with that is, really truly being a financial solutions organization. So obviously being a broker dealer is the our history and where we've came from. But if you just think about where the industry is moving and where it's going and into the future, it really is about solutions. What does that mean? Whether it's a broker dealer, an RIA, financial planning, fintech, technology, how do we leverage all those things? And so, we really look across the board. And even at the industry in a whole, for those that maybe aren't in the financial services industry and thinking about that, we really have demographic, how do we get younger people into this business? What does that look like? And all those aspects of that are part of how we serve our financial advisors, but also, again, the end customer and the industry as a whole.
Yeah. So something you said when I first asked you the question about how you help people is understanding. I was really lucky because I was introduced to the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People when I was 17 years old. And one of the key techniques is to seek to understand before being understood. And I've really honored that. So I'm curious what techniques you use to really try to understand and therefore come up with better solutions.
Yeah, I will. Before I answer the question, I will say that it's like you said, empathy. A big part of this role is understanding, to your point, is that empathy, which is the emotion that's tied to it. And we can get into some of that. But the other thing I've been focusing on is compassion. And in my mind, compassion is action. So it's one thing to understand and to listen. And that is a huge part of what my day in and day out work is. But then also, how do we have compassion and take action with what we learn? But how do we? Yeah. So I'm, and it rhymes. Compassion, is action. So I've been really focusing on what that looks like. And so I think your original question, though, as I went off topic there, is how do we seek to understand? How do we listen? And a lot of that is really just foundational tools in the CX world, in the customer experience world, in knowing who our clients are, knowing what the personas are, having those not just segmentations, but truly understanding the different personas that we serve, and then creating those journey maps. So those are, again, is nothing specific to our industry, but with that journey, I always joke around, am I the chief experience officer or the chief feelings officer? What is, we apply an empathy map on top of that. So what is that persona? What is that customer? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? And what are they doing in each of those moments across that journey, and really understanding that on an end-to-end basis. And from there, that helps us know where best and where to prioritize and take action. Because, if you really want to be compassionate and take action, you can't, we can spread ourselves out too thin, and there's always some place that we can go and do things. But how do we truly focus in and know we're going to make an impact and help people? And we use that as one of our tools.
So I really love that you bring empathy into this and feeling and emotion, because the best business is driven off emotion. That's what branding's all about. It's creating a predisposition towards a certain brand, an emotional disposition that you have. And the Cambridge brand is obviously rooted in this. So one of the things I think about is I started my business because I actually hated filling out paperwork. And I figured nobody likes filling out paperwork. But over time, we've had to realize, what are people going through? and what problems can we solve? Let's go into something else you said. The word persona is really meant to describe a type of person, right? A behavior set. What kind of personas are you looking at?
So, we start simple because you can overcomplicate things.
Sure.
You can really get detailed in what those personas are. But so we started simple and just who are the different types of people that we need to serve. And so that can be, there's your financial advisor that's, a solo financial advisor. And so they work by themselves. They may or may not have a staff. So we can look at some of that segmentation, but they also might have a team. So how does their staff need to interact with us? And how is that different than maybe that financial advisor? And then again, a customer, what is that? So those are kind of just the very basic, but from there, building that out. Are they someone who specializes in financial planning, or are they, someone who is, maybe the client is earlier on in their career, or they're a digital native. And so the experiences that each of these different personas are going to want and need, and where they come into this industry is going to be different. And so we start simple, and then over time, we're slowly, how do we continue to use data to inform us and create more sophisticated personas as we go? And that allows us to create more personalized experiences over time.
Okay. And then you use the word journey mapping. So what does that actually mean, and how does that translate to what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, journey mapping is really documenting at the very beginning what an experience might be from an outside in view. So we'll talk about forms. I'm not tracking how the form moves, the process of how a form maybe moves through, but what are the actual steps that the human being takes to move through that experience? And then the empathy map is another tool that we use, is laying on top then those thoughts, feelings on top of those actions.
So if somebody's listening to this and they want to do this themselves, is it simply a list of steps? Is it a flow chart? How would you help them do it?
Yeah, I would say I would do one that's outside of your industry first. And one, you can just Google it because it's not something specific or, just that Cambridge does. It's a CX tool that we use. But, take how you get to work in the morning. The first thing you do is, maybe you're driving to work. Simplify it, drive to work. So you get ready, make sure you have your car keys, your coffee. And so you just document all those things that you do to get to work. You go to your desk, you flip on the light, you charge up your computer. The interesting thing is if you were mapping out how you get to work, Rich, is going to be different than how I get to work, which again kind of leads to those personas. And then across that, then we start to look for, are there pain points? Are there ways and places where we can increase value, that we can improve the experience when you look at that end to end?
Yeah, my commute to work is from the bedroom across the kitchen through my office door. And instead of horns honking, I hear babies knocking.
Right. Yeah. So a pain point for you might be babies knocking, and that's not really a pain point, but something that could impede that experience.
I actually put really thick weather stripping at the bottom of my door to reduce the noise level,
Right.
And at one point I had an on-air light that would come on whenever meetings came on to inform my boys outside, hey, I'm in a meeting, don't interrupt.
Right.
Thankfully, I have a really good microphone now.
That's awesome.
One of my favorite stories I remember back from college was UPS going to this journey mapping idea. They mapped out how the driver should approach their vehicle and what hand to put the key in and how to angle the key to be more efficient to get it into the ignition. And for them, it was a lot about efficiency. So I want to lead this to what you're looking at. When you talk about doing all of this journey mapping and creating a better experience, is it also about efficiency in your mind?
It absolutely is. And efficiency, and I guess maybe to back up, in my mind, broadly, doing this work, it's about creating better experiences for our financial advisors. In turn, that that creates our financial advisors, want to stay at Cambridge. They want to refer friends to Cambridge. So we create that loyalty and that satisfaction, which helps Cambridge grow. And,
Yeah.
that's the business cycle. And so, why we want to do that. Efficiency is part of that, as we talk, and, I'm not talking to financial advisors, they're also looking to be more efficient. The number of financial advisors all across the United States is shrinking. But the number of clients that are looking for someone to help them with their, financial security is growing. And so, how do we give our financial advisors more time to do what that's most important to them, which is being face to face with their clients?
So I do think in terms of efficiency, because I can't go from my office to the kitchen without carrying the empty glass with me. I have to think in those terms. But ultimately, I define efficiency as stemming from good design. And what you're talking about in understanding who the person is, the journey they go through, the feelings they have, is you're really trying to understand what is a better design in the process. So to me, efficiency is an outcome of that, but not necessarily the only goal of that.
Right. Exactly.
I think it was when we were in the roundtable last spring that I thought about this, which is the goal is to create something that's simple. I mean, I'm in software, so I'm always thinking, how do I make the product intuitive, easy to understand, less training, less support cost, therefore simple. But what I realized is simple is really, really hard, because in order to make it simple, you have to understand how the person's looking at it and how they're experiencing it.
Yeah. It's when you say that, I always think, and a big part of CX is getting feedback and surveys and all that. And that's all great and important. But if you think about it, I always quote Henry Ford: if I asked people what they wanted, they would have told me faster horses.
Right.
If we think back and you take your smartphone, I never envisioned before, I didn't have a smartphone when I graduated from college. I never envisioned that today I would have a phone that took pictures and email and texting. And so, I mean, just think about all that stuff. And so that's part of that anticipation, that smart design is thinking about things differently, and how can we, best serve? How do we create value? What would help people that maybe hasn't been thought of? And it's hard. That's hard work. But it's, I guess, rewarding. It's fun work to think about.
Yeah, I love it. And I feel so dumb every time I look at my phone. And because I used to say, who needs a camera in your phone? Like, who is going to take photos all the time?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. No, I take photos of my license plate number. I mean, just everything all the time.
Right.
So one of the things I'm thinking about is your role of being in charge of experience. I mean, look, my mind is always tech. It's always thinking about how do we make better software, but where do you apply this in your business?
Yeah. I think it's natural to go towards tech, even for me, because it's an enabler of in my mind, the actual experience. If we make forms fewer and easier, or, it's about data and not actually the form, to your point. How do we make that easier? And that is about the relationship. Then as a financial advisor, I'm not spending all my time, putting, sticky notes of where to sign and why this form is important and all that kind of stuff. Instead, I'm sitting down with my client and I'm having a conversation about their financial goals and how they can help them get there and what's going on in their family, because that's really what that client wants. And so I see technology as an enabler. And I see a lot of what we're doing at Cambridge is in how do we enable across the board financial advisors, again, to best meet the needs of their client.
Yeah. I really like to think of the technology as the tool to be applied to the process that you've designed. Therefore, you choose the right tool. And you don't start with the tool. And I think that's a mistake a lot of people think of, is they think, oh, I want to be better, so I need a tool. You may need a tool, but if you haven't designed your process, and if you haven't understood how your people can or cannot work within the process, it's hard to get adoption on those tools.
Right. It's interesting you say that. Is what part of our process, I'll say, there our intake. So if we see something that we want to improve on, we've decided, hey, we want to prioritize, improving this part of the experience. The error that we can make, to your point, is you can go directly to, okay, what technology is going to fix that, versus saying, okay, is that an improvement in the process? Does that mean we need to stop doing something? Have we had policies or procedures in place for maybe good reason, but they're a decade old and they don't resonate anymore? So can we stop doing things? Is there something that we can, use technology that we already have? So, we kind of talk about, we have, like, in this companies and, Cambridge, we have some incredibly powerful technology partners that we've implemented. I think of them like they're like a race car or Ferrari in our garage. Have we leveraged everything within that Ferrari can do? Have we got it out of the garage at top speed? So before you go leveraging new things or adding new technology, have we made best use of what we have? And the other thing is, like bots and other things, like where can we automate human processes that aren't adding the most value? And it always comes back to value. How can technology, how can, bots and processes, all those things, how can we use those to allow humans to do more valuable work and to do more human things?
Yeah.
So
I love how my COO, Don Cron, says it. He says, let the computers do the left brain work, the mechanical, repetitive stuff. Let the humans do the right brain work, the creative, the innovative, which leads me to another topic I want to bring up, which is artificial intelligence. And I think a lot of people think artificial intelligence is going to take over everything that we do. And I don't, but I'm curious what your perspective is. How do you think it's going to impact customer experience?
Yeah. I'm excited about it. I'm naturally, though, an optimist. So I know there's risks and things that we need to be aware of when it comes to artificial intelligence. But one of the things, and just specifically where we're focused at Cambridge, is how do we leverage it to really help our employees? Because when I've spent a lot of time talking about how we help financial advisors serve their clients, but how do we best give our employees resources and tools and processes and technology that allows them to best serve the financial advisors? And so there's so much with an example that could be just resources and knowledge. A call comes in and you could use transcription and then artificial intelligence, machine learning to help find the answer to that question, which better allows the people answering the phone more confidence. They might already kind of know what the answer is, but it helps them get confidence. It can get us quicker answers. So I think, again, with everything, I mean, you can say that with our phones and social media today. You can use it for good, but it can also be bad. If it can disrupt and it can take away from that human connection. So I like to think about, how do we use AI? How do we use machine learning to really enhance the human experience? And know that I have plenty of partners in this industry that'll help think about what are the negative aspects of it. And I'm glad they're there, because it takes a diverse mindset to think about it.
When we started this calendar year, we're recording this in 2023, I gave my team a goal. I said, every person on this team needs to find an AI-driven tool that can make their job easier, faster, better, higher quality, et cetera. And I've seen some amazing outcomes. One of which was, I mean, you think about empowering your team. We decided to put a custom GPT, and that's actually the website, customgpt.com, into our API guide. We have a 360-page document that developers use to figure out answers to how to use our product better. And we put this GPT capability so they could go ask it questions. It's amazing. It is already lowering our cost of incoming queries from customers, speeding up their response time because they're getting it in real time. And my own team is now using it to answer the questions too. So it's helping my team be more efficient and faster.
It's interesting. I'll give you an example. So my daughter's in college. She's a chemical engineer, and she uses Chat GPT, to help with her, figuring out complicated answers and things. And some people could think, well, is she learning? And I'm like, in some ways, isn't that great? Because what with chemistry and chemical engineering is solving problems. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're taking away the need to have to memorize and do things that are at our fingertips so that people as humans, we can really focus in on solving those big problems. And so I'm kind of, I think about this generation that's coming out, having something like a chat GPT in high school and college. And are they going to help us solve bigger problems than we ever have been able to solve before? You know what I mean? I hope so.
Do you remember, I don't know, I'm not going to ask what your age is, et cetera, but maybe you've seen the meme, the kid in high school back in the 80s and 90s saying, why do I have to learn how to calculate all this? I'm going to have a calculator. And the teacher's like, what, do you
Right.
think you're going to have a calculator in your pocket?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called our
Yeah.
iPhone. Uh, but
Right.
isn't that like what chat GPT is going to be? Because you can
Yeah.
already do chat GPT on your phone. You already have it with you 24/7 if you want it.
Right. Yeah. I think the real challenge is for those of us that, that isn't how we learned and native to is how do we teach? How do we lead? How do we do business differently? Like
Yeah.
the challenge, I think, is more for our generations on how do we embrace it and
I'm concerned about critical thinking.
yeah,
I'm concerned about developing critical thinking skills if you have all the answers in your pocket. How do you know to trust it? How do you know to challenge it? And
right,
some of the best innovations come from challenging status quo or the common belief, right?
right, yeah. And it goes to, you mentioned critical thinking. I also, we have in our generationally, and not just in our industry, but I just think in our business world, is we have not allowed failure
Mm-hmm.
at being okay. And that critical thinking also goes to that testing, that failure, that learning, that beginner's mindset. And so there's something there too that I think is really interesting, that the more we can open ourselves up to that.
Yeah. So you're leading down a path of another question I wanted to ask, which is in your role, are you
Mm-hmm.
called in on new projects? Are you called in on existing projects? Are you called in on failed projects? When do you apply your skills to the needs of your company?
It is, one is at the very beginning, as this, because we are assessing that journey from end to end. And so we're helping prioritize and feed where we need to be going as an organization, what needs to be next. So it's a little bit of everything that you just shared. But it's really, we are the voice of the financial advisor. And so how do we take that voice across the whole organization and make sure every single person who, architect, software developer, person in legal compliance, they understand what it's like to walk in the shoes of a financial advisor.
Yeah. Do you ever think it's too late after you've implemented something to go back and figure it out and change it, modify it? Because you don't want to scrap it all.
No, I think sometimes you need to scrap it all, but also the best work is not to get to that point where it's that big bang.
Yeah.
And that is, how is implementing small improvements on a regular basis, and then learning from that, getting feedback from that. And it's really a cycle, of a feedback loop and an improvement
Yeah,
over time.
it is. Val, I think we could talk about this all day, and I look forward to doing more with that. But I'll have to wrap this up. And before I ask you my very last question, how would you want people to find and connect with you?
Best way to find me and connect with me would be on LinkedIn, Valarie Vest.
All right, perfect. All right, here's my last question.
All right.
Who has had the biggest impact on your leadership style or how you approach your role?
That's a tough one. There's a lot of people that have had a impact. Um, can I give you two?
Sure. Yeah, we'd love hearing
Okay.
about it.
I'll give one named, one not named. One was a not named, was a leader that helped me just help build my own confidence and see the ability that I didn't have to have all the answers. to lead and to do new and different things, and just gave me the confidence to try things. I've never been a chief experience officer before, and there's never been one at Cambridge before. So there's no precedence in that. And so what does that mean? And so he was someone, I'll say mid in my career, that really gave me that confidence that you can learn and grow, and kind of set me on a personal path, which then leads me to someone who's really had an impact. We met in 2020. And we met during COVID. She's in a totally different industry, Molly Kurth. She is an executive in I'll say the food services organization world. And just her and I, we're like peer mentors. We meet multiple times a month, sometimes 3-4 times a month, and we coach and mentor each other. And I've learned that leadership has no boundaries of industry, people. And so we challenge each other. And one of the things that she's made the biggest impact is just asking me those tough questions, because I believe we all have the answers inside. It's really easy to go out and want to ask other people for answers, but I know we all have the answers to what we want on the inside. And so she challenges me and asks those questions so I can help find those answers within me.
What a brilliant idea. I mean, we all think, oh, I should have a mentor, and that's somebody way older than me, way more experienced, but to have a peer mentor and to work with each other, man, I hope everybody can find that. That is awesome. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I want to say a big thank you to Val Vest, Chief Experience Officer of Cambridge Investment Research, for being on this episode of The Customer Wins. Go check out their website at joincambridge.com. And don't forget to check out Quick at quickforms.com, where we make processing forms easier. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. We'll click the like button, share this with someone, and subscribe to our channels for future episodes of The Customer Wins. Val, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Rich. I've had just a great time. So thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.